conversation around RSD and overwhelm, navigating the hidden struggle of ADHD. In conversation with me, lucky them, the, after 22 hours of being like doing this, they are definitely going to be doing the conversational work. We're then doing the beautiful contradiction more on ADHD and autism. Very, very important. So many people are both. And then finishing up is the NHS and ADHD, an update on the local provision of ADHD. That is a big, big deal. It is Dr. Tim Kendall, CBE, who was until late 2023 the National Clinical Director for Mental Health in NHS England. So he is going to be very important. Right, we are going to do some videos and introducing to you some more ADHD UK ambassadors who are absolutely extraordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we are thrilled about them. Please may I introduce Natalie.
Hey, my name's Natalie, and I'm the author of the book The ADHD Fight. So a little bit about me. So I got a diagnosis at the age of 27. I was missed as a child due to mainly being a female. They missed the signs because, you know, we're not boisterous. I was very hyperactive, always getting myself into trouble. And it wasn't until the age of 27 when I had my daughter that I really, really struggled with it. I got diagnosed with postnatal depression, and then eventually I got my ADHD diagnosis. So like I said, it was a long road. It was really hard. So I basically wrote this book to spread awareness and to put things back. So this book is being sold on Amazon, and every bit of profit of this book gets donated to ADHD UK. So this is basically to spread awareness. It's a really easy read. As you can see, there's pictures in it. And it just goes through the facts of having ADHD, that it's just a bit more than hyperactivity. So yeah, I am continuing to fundraise. I have done a zip line which raised £250 for charity, and I'm trying to get some at the minute some training funding for where I work. So yeah, literally it's an absolutely amazing cause, and yeah, it's about spreading that awareness.
My name is Kirsty Northam. I am an ambassador for ADHD UK. The reason why I wanted to join and be an ambassador is because I believe that there are many people in the armed forces community who have ADHD but are not supported, and so I was hoping that by becoming an ambassador I can help to raise awareness of this. We also have a lot of families within the armed forces community, such like myself, who are SEND families and are in desperate need of support, trying as best as I can to form partnerships for our armed forces families and community members. Include serving members, veterans, cadets, and anyone who is within the armed forces family.
Hello, my name's Anne Diamond and I'm founder of Resilience Rebel and proud to be an ADHD UK ambassador. I became an ambassador because I wanted to have a voice, and also to help others with ADHD to have a voice too, to advocate for themselves and to get the support they needed and their families needed to help them thrive and not just survive with ADHD. I couldn't access that support from the services I turned to after my late diagnosis when I was 52. So I've made it my mission to find the places and people where I do feel safe to unmask and learn more about how I can navigate living and working with ADHD. To get the support I needed to process my diagnosis, I had to pay for my own counselling and train as an ADHD coach. My employer at the time had declined to give me the reasonable adjustments I'd requested, which included a workplace assessment to understand my needs better and some other minor adjustments, instead opting to force me through an occupational health process, which I declined and left the job. I set up my own coaching and consultancy business. I was already practicing as an EFT practitioner and NHS health coach trainer, and realised that I could combine my skills and experience to help with the emotional dysregulation and trauma we experience as ADHDers. I now blend ADHD coaching with EFT and other mind-body practices, and creative practices, to including poetry and creative writing, in my one-to-one and group coaching and wellbeing workshops. And I also offer consultancy on inclusive wellbeing support and strategy. In the past year, since becoming an ADHD ambassador, I've set up a local support group for women with ADHD, and I'm proud to have been invited to speak on several podcasts, radio shows, speak at conferences and events about being neurodivergent and how to support people with ADHD to prevent and recover from burnout. And I've had some really fascinating and sometimes heartfelt conversations with people. I've also spoken about the inequalities in diagnosis and treatment of women and girls with ADHD, and how the contribution of our hormones in ADHD symptoms are not taken into account a lot of the time and are sometimes misdiagnosed, and how our symptoms can show up differently, particularly in menopause. I'm also proud to share that I've been invited to be an ambassador to the UK Parliament to advocate on better support for people with ADHD and better support in their pre and post diagnostic journeys, because I believe the NICE guidelines aren't being implemented effectively and fully, leaving people without the support they need. And I'd like to campaign for more research and education on the different ways ADHD shows up in women and girls, as this has caused huge inequalities in diagnosis and care. Thank you for listening.
Welcome, Catherine, and welcome, Lex. Wonderful to have you both here. Obviously, just listening to some wonderful ADHD UK ambassadors doing just extraordinary things. So yeah, just thrilled to have you both here. You're both extraordinary ADHD coaches. You're both extraordinary people. We've known each other for many years now, which is a wonderful thing. And you're leaders in the ADHD community without any doubt. As you know, I hold you in extraordinary high regard. And we're here to do a conversation about RSD. Do you want to both introduce yourselves and what you're doing as a starter? Catherine, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Well, we're here as a pair. We're here as NeuroChicks. So we have our own. We met actually through coaching. Lex was coaching me, and we really hit it on. That was back to the point that Hester was making. Like, sometimes you really want to find the person who's going to really work for you, and that was the case for me and Lex. And this has transformed into a partnership, really, as well as a friendship. So, as part of NeuroChicks, what we want to do is offer. We feel like sometimes in the ADHD community, there's a lot of very serious advice, and there's a lot of like the TikTok sort of quite jokey kind of thing. And where are we? Basically, like, it always doesn't feel like we have somewhere in the middle. We feel like we sort of provide something which is quite straight talking, sometimes a little sweary. Apologies in advance, but actually also really deeply researched, because obviously, as we do in our community of ADHDers, we really care and we really hyper focus on stuff as well. So we really bring all of this passion that we have into this, but we try to make it very accessible as well. And so part of what we do with Chicks is offer group coaching and courses, but really cheap as well. So we're talking like £15 for anything that we do. And that's a way that we can sort of make some of this provision available to people outside of regular coaching, which is fantastic, but not always accessible financially.
Amazing. And Lex, you want to say a quick, obviously that was an introduction for the both of you for NeuroChicks. Say a bit about you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Say that again.
Just, do you want to say a bit about you?
Is there a bit of a delay? Absolutely. So I'm Lex Harvey-Bryn. I'm an ADHD coach and therapist. I've been working in this industry for many, many years, and I'm very grateful to be a strong advocate and supporter of ADHD UK. We're here today to talk about rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is a subject that both Catherine and I are incredibly passionate about, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you today.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we, for those watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, we've had to do that to refresh that we have to do every 4 hours for Instagram and LinkedIn, every 8 hours for Facebook. The world is not fully designed for our kind of like wonderful craziness of a 28-hour global conference. So we have to renew our streams every now and again. And that was what just happened. So if you dropped out and had to refresh, that's what just happened. I always have to try and do it whilst we're doing something else. It's a big deal, RSD, and I think it's, we did a section earlier in the conference talking around emotional response, which RSD firmly sits, and emotional response, RSD, is wildly underestimated in its impact. It is the thing that has you leaving your job because of what's happened, and even though you're great at it. Like, it's that it'll exit you from a friend group. Like, it can cause your self worth huge costs, and it is a very, very big deal. Who's up for the challenge of describing what RSD is?
Go,
What
Lex.
means to do, Catherine?
Go for it.
Okay, so the one of the simplest way to explain rejection sensitivity dysphoria is it's the perception that we're failing to meet our own or other people's expectations, like a rocket through chest. It's visceral, it's all body. It's a real trip into complete mind and body overwhelm. Now, one of the key things in that is to recognize that it's often born in the perception. So it's the not knowing, it's the ambiguity. And that is a space that neurodivergent minds can really struggle in. So quite often when we're looking at how to navigate rejection sensitivity, the first thing to do is recognize the space of ambiguity.
What do you mean by the... Can you expand on the space of ambiguity?
Well, it's always in the unknown. Oh, sorry, Henry. It's always in the unknown. So it's things like someone looked at you funny, but you're not sure if you've upset them, not knowing if you've got something right at work, being in a position where you think someone's given you a funny look and you don't know if you've upset them. It's often, when you look at the things that are behind rejection sensitivity, it's in the unknowns. It's the I'm not sure's, I don't know if, that causes essentially our amygdala goes on high alert and sends our body into a central nervous system response. So we're either going to sort of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So we're going to fight, our justice insensitivity will be raging, and we might want to, our response might be to fight, to get involved, to defend yourself. That's one of the things that when our amygdala fires off, our logical brain shuts down and our central nervous system takes over. So you can be aware that your logic's there and you're desperately trying to get hold of it. But in these moments when we're triggered, as I say, it feels like a rocket to the chest. We essentially go onto autopilot and then we have these reactions. So fight being one of those responses, or you can have a flight response. So I'm going to quit the job, I'm running away, I'm leaving the relationship, a real sort of need to get away from that situation. You might have a fawn response where you'll be, this is often where it can look like people pleasing or sort of perfectionism, wanting to get it absolutely right, but writing very long emails justifying what you've done, having to be very, very apologetic and doing all you can to, because your brain's essentially sensing a danger and a threat, so it's trying to protect you from that. So so if a fawn response is what your brain's instructing you or guiding you to do, it will look very people pleasy, very perfectiony, very I'm going to do everything I can to make you like me, to not be a threat. I'm not a threat to you anymore. And then the other one is a freeze response, which is where you just go blank. Your mind goes blank and you don't know what to do next. You can't access any sort of logic or cognitive thoughts in your mind, and you just freeze, very unclear of what you need to do next. Now, when you're looking at your central nervous system responses, some of the things that are going on in that moment is our insular system goes into overdrive. So we feel everything. We're flooded with emotions. We're flooded with all the feelings. Our interoception, which we're going to have a chat on sensory stuff, but our interoception can go wild. So how we're feeling it in our body. Esther mentioned earlier that about how it's a brain and body connection, and it absolutely is. And if you look at the way that our body responds when it's when our amygdala sets off, a fight response, there's lots of body movement, there's lots of breathing. And when we're in a flight response, again, there's lots of body movement, there's lots of breathing. If we have a fawn response or a freeze response, quite often our body shakes afterwards, because it's getting rid of all that adrenaline and that cortisol. But the challenge that we have is often when we are hit by this RSD, it's quite all-consuming, and you can't separate your thoughts from the feelings, from the emotions. It's just overwhelm of a mental and emotional overwhelm of all of those feelings.
Catherine, why does it hit ADHD and autistic ADHD so hard?
Well, I think that's a really interesting is that when we speak about RSD, what I often hear in coaching is people say, oh, it's like a curse. It's like the RSD thing is almost like this monster, that's this virus that's infecting you. And really, I think it's really important to sort of understand that this is not what's happening, that RSD is something that is something that kind of develops with us over time from what we call the drip effect of having negative sort of feedback loops from our environment or even from our own selves, which is literally, if you're constantly as a neurodivergent person, which means that